Hello everyone, welcome to another video for the History Valley YouTube channel with your host Jacob Berman. So today we're going to be discussing the execution of Jason and the rise of the Qumran sect. The Words of Levi and the rise of the Qumran sect is also another way of titling this video, but that is basically what this is about, because the Words of Levi ties in to the death of Jason, also referred to as Yeshua. All right. So let's get a chronology out, okay? And then we'll start. All right. So as usual, we're going to use Library Office to begin this program, and it's turning on right now. Okay, I'm just gonna have to get it into Web View, and then we'll be ready. There we go. Alright, so what we're going to do here is we're going to draw a line all the way across, and then we're going to note a few things. And before we do, we need to take a look at the Words of Levi. And it says here, let's go to the end of the text, close to the end. All right, here we go. It says in 4Q541, fragment 9, it says, his wisdom, and he shall make atonement for all those of his generation, and he shall be sent to all the children of his people. His command is like the command of heaven, and his teaching is like the will of God. The sun everlasting will shine, and its fire will give warmth to all the ends of the earth. It will shine on darkness, then will darkness vanish from the earth, and mist from the land. They will speak many words against him and many falsehoods. They will concoct lies and speak all kinds of slander against him. His generation is evil and perverse. His term of office will be marked by lies and violence, and the people will go astray. In his days and be confounded. 7 rams are fitting. Some of his children shall go, and they shall be added too. Now, this is referring to the ministry of the teacher of righteousness. I mentioned here about his term of office. So as we can see here, the text seems to be very familiar with the life of the teacher of righteousness. And yet it's claiming to be prophetic. It could remind one of the Gospel of Mark. Mark describes the temple being destroyed so clearly that no serious scholar, would claim that Mark was written before AD 70. But either on AD 70 or afterwards, because that's when the temple was destroyed. So, few things to note. 7 rams, and the teacher of righteousness' reign had come to pass. The number 7 is significant because, not just in Judaism, but for another reason. Not just because it's Sabbath day, but there's also one more thing to keep in mind. The Maccabean revolt. How long did that last? It lasted for 7 years. I'll type it down right here. That's how long it lasted. 167 to 160 BCE. Now, what was the result? It was successful. The Seleucids were defeated. It was led by several people: Mattathias, Judah Maccabee, Jonathan Appas, Eleazar of Aaron, Simon Fassa, and John Gada. So there are several leaders of this Maccabean revolt. Another thing is that the words of Levi also say that they shall mourn the teacher. I'll read it right here in fragment 24 of 4Q 541. Do not mourn for him. God will prepare many books, scrolls, many revelations, and examine them, and seek and know what will befall you. But do not damage them by erasure, or wear like. Do not touch the priestly headplate. Thus you will keep up a good reputation for your father, and you will become a sound foundation for your brothers. You will grow and understand and be glad in the light of the world. You will not be a disowned vessel. Interesting statement. Disowned vessel. So we know several things. The Words of Levi is very specific. One of the most specific scrolls that you can possibly get. Aside from the Damascus document, which is extremely specific. Let's have a look. Let's comment on the matter. So, the words of Levi state that they shall mourn the teacher of righteousness. That is because he died. That the teacher's ministry had already occurred. And that to write scrolls in his honor. That's what they state. And so also the scrolls mention 7 rams, while the Maccabean revolt lasted 7 years. So we know that Jason, or Yeshua, the righteous teacher, died on 168 BCE. So we know that the words of Levi are referring to these events. So it looks like the words of Levi are fully aware of the Maccabean revolt. The language in our text seems to be very familiar with the holiness of God defeating the Gentiles. Can't be anyone else but the Seleucids at that time, otherwise the text would have told us something about the Kittim coming in and conquering Egypt and Assyria, for Seleucia is located where Assyria used to be in that era. So that would mean the words of Levi were written down no later than 160 BCE. That would, of course, be the most logical conclusion to come out of this evidence, based on, they come out. Let me rephrase. It would be the most logical thing to conclude based on what the evidence states. The words of Levi were written in several fragments. 4Q213, 4Q213 A to B, 4Q214, 4Q214 A to B, 4Q40 to 41, 1Q21 Genazi fragments, Mount Alphos Greek text. So, that's what we were looking at here. If any of you got any questions before I continue, please state your inquiry in the live chat. Do the very best I can to answer. Hopefully, to the satisfaction of the person that's asking the question. All right. What's next, then? Do you remember that I stated, I talked about this before, the 40 years of a Damascus document? Yes. Let's talk about those 40 years again. Remember, the teacher died on 168 BCE. What happened on, say, 128 BCE? What happened on 128 BCE? Let's talk about it. Because, of course, that also happens to be the year that the Seleucids were defeated again by the Jewish rebels. 128 BCE. What happened on that year? Well, I just stated it. So you could call it, if you want to, even though that's not really what it is. It's like a succeeding war to the Maccabean Revolt, the second Maccabean Revolt, if you want to call it that. D.A. Herndon says, "Hey Jacob, why Jason instead of Joshua?" Oh, that's because he was poorly translated as Jason. I probably should have said Yeshua. I mean, it is Yeshua. That's his name. It is his name. Any more questions before I continue? All right. So that would land us on 128 BC as being the latest time the Damascus document could have been written down. Now, some claim that it has to be written in the 1st century CE, but that doesn't make any sense because it's quite clearly referring to 2nd century BCE events. There's just no way around it. I talked about 390 years, referring to, actually it's 410 years if you add it all up together. All right, let's talk about something here, because there's something that I need to talk about, and I'm skipping it over, and I'm trying to avoid skipping it over because that's just ridiculous. Let's talk about Demetrius II, Nicator. Nicator means victor in Greek. So this person came up against an usurper, Alexander II Zabanus. And there was also King Ptolemy VIII. He was involved in it as well. Now, Demetrius was defeated at the Battle of Damascus. That's an interesting scenario there. It's very, very close to the time period that the Damascus document is talking about. There's also something else I need to bring up here. So we know about the Maccabean revolt. It lasted 7 years. The words of Levi are referring to it. But there's something else that needs to be discussed. Antiochus VII Euergetes, also called Antiochus the Pious. Now, what does this guy do? What is he to the Jews? Antiochus defeated the usurper Deodatus Tryphon at Dora, and he laid siege to Jerusalem on 134 BC. During the siege, he had allowed a 7-day truce for the Jews to celebrate a religious festival, impressing the Jewish leadership. Josephus says that John Hyrcanus opened King David's sepulchre and removed 3,000 talents. And he paid Antiochus to spare his city. Nevertheless, this didn't bode well. But later on, Jewish forces managed to kill him. Okay, not kill him, sorry. Jewish forces later assisted him, I meant to say, in his wars. And about 20 years after his death, John Hyrcanus had successfully avoided attacking areas under the Seleucid control. A few interesting things there. Now, when did this happen? Okay, when did that happen? So Demetrius II was coming in here about it in the 126. Now Antiochus VII Sidetus, he's also called Sidetus. He dies about 128 BCE. Isn't that interesting, isn't it? 40 years after the death of the teacher of righteousness, the Seleucid king died. Another enemy of Judea. And he's dead. Exactly 40 years after Jason's death. That's a bit ironic, isn't it? Phraates II, an enemy of Antiochus VII, also dies on 128 BCE. Now, I admit, some would say Antiochus VII died on 129 instead. Even if that were true. And I suppose, if we were to be a little modest about this, we could put his death on 129. Not like that would make much of a difference. His enemy, Phraates, died a year later. A year later. And so the Damascus document is definitely referring to this time period. The conflicts between Phraates, that king, and what was happening to Jerusalem at the same time. It's no coincidence at all. And none of this fits in the 1st century CE. And that's why I'm having a hard time believing that any of this is 1st century CE. It's as simple as that. All right, let's start putting this down in dates. So Antiochus the 7th Sedetus, I'll just say he died on 129. Most, from what I can tell, most date his death to that specific date instead of 128, although some will put his death on 128. However, as far as I can tell, all chronologists agree that Phraates II died on 128 BCE. Let me just fix this line here for a minute. Any questions? For anyone? No? Okay. Let's take a look at something else here. Let's keep taking a look at Antiochus VIII. I'm sorry, I meant the 7th. Got a little, I confused a couple of kings there, Governor. Didn't mean to do that. So this guy laid siege to Jerusalem at the same time, but the Damascus document is talking about all this. Oh, here's something else that's interesting. Looks like Demetrius II succeeded him right away. There's some oddities in the successors. Looks like many of them succeeded him, but that's for another video. This video is getting long enough already, and I feel like I'm running on a tangent here, and I need to fix the situation right away. So let's write this. The Damascus document said that the Gentiles would be defeated after 40 years. Let's just say 40 years after the death of the righteous teacher. Let's link it to both, because it links to both. So you see how this dating here lines up with this? It's talking about Jason. All about Jason. That's what this is about. Any questions from anyone else? Oh, and for anyone that's watching, if any of you are not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. If any of you haven't liked this video, hit the like button. And if any of you want to go any further than that in supporting this channel financially, hit the Super Chat, Patreon, PayPal. So I can use all the support it can get. Thank you for considering to support this channel. All right, back to business. So we know the 40 years definitely is referring to very intense events in the Middle East taking place 40 years after Jason's death. Of course, considering that Antiochus VII appears to have died on 128 or very close to it, he probably died in December 129 BCE. So it would make sense that that's the reason why some of the evidence indicates that he lived in 128, which could easily cause the 40 years to be brought up in the scrolls.
Besides, it does round up to it anyway. 39 years. It comes up to 40. It just does. It works. Now, let's talk about James the Just. Does 40 years work with him at all? No, you can't even round it up to 40. Let's pull it up in the timeline. When did James die? James the Just is executed by Ananias ben Ananias on AD 62. If we're going to assume that this person is the teacher of righteousness and not this guy over here, and we're going to assume that the 40 years has something to do with him, I'm going to explain why that doesn't work. Second temple of Jerusalem is destroyed, 70 AD. How many years is it between 62 and 70 AD? Only 8 years. You can round that up to 10, but you can't round it up to you cannot round it up to 40 years. So this does not work with this. Simple. So no, it doesn't work. Doesn't fit. The author of the redacted Habakkuk Pesher did not incorporate the 40-year system with James in the Second Temple. He just doesn't do it. Otherwise, it should work, but it doesn't. And he should be saying 8 years instead of 40. Oh, ironically, 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 5 is 40. Eight 5 times is indeed 40. There's really no way around that one. Why does he not mention those 8 years? He could do it. Even if he mentioned 40, somebody could probably argue, well, I mean, it's 8 is 45 times. You know, 5 times 8 is 40. And that's all it is. Well, if that's really what it's referring to, then how do we explain this? You see, this era fits a lot better than this era. So it's easier to explain if it fits in the 2nd century BCE instead of the 1st century CE. There's a lot less explaining to do if we keep it in the 2nd century BCE. We don't have to work all that crap out. And, you know, an argument with fewer explanations is a stronger argument. An argument with too many explanations is a problem. Simple as that. Now, one could claim it's referring to the AD 30, something to do with John the Baptist, or maybe the Samaritan, or some would even go as far as saying with Jesus. But there is no one in the AD 30s that fits the story of the teacher of righteousness. They don't have a high priest as their enemy and a liar as their enemy at the same time. This doesn't fit. There are multiple things that would have to coordinate in order for it to work. Multiple parallels coordinating with each other. Like we do with the Words of Levi, the Damascus document, Psalms Pesher, Apocryphon of Jeremiah, all that stuff. But the fact of the matter is, we don't have that happening in the 1st century CE. But like I've said before, several times, it happened in the 2nd century BCE. So again, it is easier to explain, and we have far less problems. In fact, we really have no problems at all if we keep it in the 2nd century BCE. We keep it there, it all fits. Simple. It all fits. And that's the correct way to view it. It's a better way to view it. Any questions? From anyone? Gonna wait for some questions real quick. We have 13 people watching, 8 likes. There's gotta be someone on here that wants to throw something in the live chat. I'm waiting. Okay, now we're down to 12 people. So we lost 3 viewers. Now we're back up to 13. Well then. In that case, I'm going to go ahead and put 128. I have to take a look into this more. The specific dating about the death of Antiochus, because I have to admit that has been getting on my nerves for a while. To be honest, I'm suspecting he did die on 128 BCE. In fact, it looks likely I'm going to conclude that later. I gotta just take a look at it. I gotta take a look at it some more. So right now it's sketchy. Everything else in here is good to go. All the other data is. The specific death about Antiochus, like the exact dating, is a little problematic. So yeah, gotta look into that some more. It does look like he did die at the end of the 40 years that the Damascus document is talking about. So either way, it fits. All right. Well, thanks to all of you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video with your friends. If any of you want to financially support this channel later, check out Patreon, PayPal, or Super Chat. And I'll see all of you later. Thank you for watching.